You couldn't hear me there, could you? Right, bear with me. You can hear me now. Okay, that's lovely. Somewhere there. Right, shall we try that again? Yeah, let's try that again. Hello everybody and welcome to the show. This is Andy's Shed Live, Series 5, Episode 5 for Sunday the 31st of March 2019. I hope you've had a good week. I hope you're all well. We've just had a bit of a false start here, so if you're watching live, sorry about the false start. If you're watching after the event, I don't know if we've left it in or if we've edited it out. I've not decided yet. If we can be bothered to edit it out, if we'll just leave it in for a laugh, because people like the bits that go wrong, don't they? You know, when you watch Italian, the bits that go wrong are better than the proper bits, aren't they? Right, great stuff. Right, we've got a few things to crack on with today. We've got a mixture of telephones and trains today. First thing, for anybody that didn't catch the last episode that we did, where we were talking about the Contemporary repairs, you may remember the Contemporary that had a great big crack in it, that was all cracked and broken. I don't think I've got a photograph of it now. No, I don't think I have. But it had basically this one here, this Contemporary phone had a big break in the top of the handset there, and as you can see, we've repaired it. It's not totally invisible at the moment. I do have to say that it's not completely invisible, the repair, but it is now at least usable, and I will do a bit more work on it to try and make it a bit less noticeable even. But you can see there that we've done with ABS slurry, which is a mixture of the ABS plastic that the phone cases are made out of, and acetone, and you can see there that it's worked quite well, and that phone is now usable, so that is brilliant. Like I say, we'll do a bit more tidying up on it and a bit more polishing of it, but it is basically now usable. And it's not all about telephones either tonight. It's about model railways as well, specifically American model railways. You may see a little locomotive sat there, but we'll tell you more about that a little bit later in the show. I'm just checking the stream, because we did have problems a couple of weeks ago with the live stream with sort of dropped frames and things. So I'm just keeping an eye and making sure this is actually going out tonight as it should be. Right, first thing on this week, as always, remember you can get in touch with us through our website. One or two people are getting in touch with us through the comments thing on YouTube, which is brilliant, and I can comment back to you. But if you want to send me photographs or anything, get in touch with us through the website, which is here. It's andyshed.coldpress.net. That's andyshed.coldpress.net. If you get in touch with us by the contact form that is on there, if you want to send me pictures, just send me a message saying, hi, I'd like to send you a picture to ask you about such and such, and then I'll reply to you via email with an email address you can send the pictures to. But I don't put the email address on the website and that, because otherwise I'd get tons and tons and tons of spam. So if you want to get in touch with us, go there. And also, if you would like to be a patron, if you enjoy the videos and you like to help us out a bit, just with sort of, I think it's $1 a month is what we've set it up at, a US dollar that is. You can subscribe to us at patreon.com/ANDYS on there as well, if you want to do that, being as YouTube took our monetization away a year ago. Thanks, YouTube. Right, along with a lot of other people, I hasten to add. There's like millions of us in the same boat. Right, we're going to crack on because we've got a packed show tonight and not much time to get it into. We're going to crack on with the telephone. Now, I was asked over the last week or so, someone got in touch with me and asked me about telephone dials. He said, I've got a load of telephone 746s, similar to this one. He said, and some of them will dial out and some of them won't. Can you tell me why? Why do some of them work and not others? And he said they're all wired up correctly, you know, they're all wired exactly as they should be, but for whatever reason they just won't dial as the way they should. So I did say, are they wired up right? And he assures me that they are. If you're not sure how to wire one up for the BT plug and socket system that we use these days, this is basically how you do it for a standard 706, a 746, an 8746, 711, 741, which are the war phones, 711, 741. This is how you do it. This is how you wire them. So have a look at that. Pause the video if you want, get a screen grab of that. That is how you should wire them. So all those four that go off to the left go to your handset. Those that go off to the top, the two sort of dark purple ones, go up to the dial, go up to the bell set rather. The others go to the dial, and the others go to the BT plug and socket, the ones that go off the bottom. So that's your line cord, basically. The bell set ones are not always purple in the phone. All the others are basically the colour that they are in the phone. But the bell set ones are not always purple. They can be any colour. So look where they go for the bell set and not what colour they are. And remember, put that 3.3 kilo ohm resistor in between terminals T4 and T5. And you should be all set. So that's what you should do. But he got in touch and he said, I've done all that wiring, that's fine. Some of my 746s work and some don't. So today I thought what we'd do is we'd take a look at a 746 dial, because I think the dial may be where his problem is. So what we will do is we will unwrap this one and take a look. So here we are, we're on the desk. We'll unwrap the line cord off of it, because I wrap the line cords around them just for storage, you see. So we're now unwrapped. Right, find a screwdriver. And I've also got to get the dial off, possibly. One of the things you have to do is get this off. Now, people say, how do you get these off? Now, if it's a 746 dial like this, it does not necessarily apply to 706s. But if it's a 746 dial like this, or if it's a 706 with a clear finger wheel, it's the same. The GPO, or BTO, whatever you like to call them, they used to use a sucker that they put on there and pulled that off. You can do it with tape. You can sometimes do it with a bit of blue tack if you're lucky, a bit, you know, or other sticky things are available. But if you sort of work a bit of blue tack up, you can sometimes get it off with a bit of blue tack. You shouldn't have to take the thing off. You shouldn't have to take the dial off, but you often do have to, because just of it's not really a very good design how it works, to be honest. Right, so can we get that centre off this one? Will it come off? No, it won't. In fact, is the dial attached in this? I don't know if it is or not. It's just pushed inwards. So this is the phone I got the other week. This is a bit of a bitzer. Why is it a bitzer? It's because it's got the later style case, but it's got the alphanumeric dial surrounds. 746s, which came after the 706s, only had this alphanumeric surround between about 1967 and maybe as late as 1971-ish. And I don't know if they all got them or not in that period. A lot of people say 746ers never got them, but the early ones did. But this is a late one because that across the case there would be straight. This it wouldn't have this sort of hump bit in it here if it was an early case. But so this is a later case, so it shouldn't have that. So this is the bits that's been put together at some point. So what we do with the 746, for those of you that don't know, is there's a screw in the back here. And this screw should be retained. Whether this one will be or not, it should have a spring on it, but then it should be retained. And I don't think this one is. No, it's not. It should have a little nut thing on the back, but this one hasn't got one. So I'll just put that to one side for a minute. Take the handset off. Now you should be able to basically put your thumb on the dial there, a couple of fingers under there, and you should be able to pull upwards, or basically hold the dial in, however you can do it, and try to lift upwards off the case, and there you go. And now the dial, as I suspected, isn't fitted correctly to this because it's just moved about on there. And I look inside it and I find there's a part missing, because in the top of here, that screw there, I don't know if you can see that, I don't know if that's in focus actually there. Let's see if I can get that into focus a bit better for you. That better? That little screw there should be like a hook thing on here that screw engages with. There should be a little hook fitted on here, and that would hold the dial in place. But that little hook thing is missing on this one, which makes it a little bit easier for us to take the dial out. It just locates on this thing here between the bells on two little tabs there. They locate in those slots there. So that's how it locates when you're putting it back in. You've got to get that in the slots. But that's how you do it. Right, we'll take this dial off. Now, what you may or may not have, you may or may not have this plastic thing on the back, this dust cover. And you may or may not have this little screw in here. But what you have to do is just take this little screw out, and it's actually relatively long for what it is, if you can see that. And then you can take this ring off here. Now bear in mind the dial's connected, so you can't take this ring away because it's connected with these wires. So you can just rest that in there somewhere, and now you should be able to pull this plastic piece off now, and you've got your terminals in there. And the way these terminals go, reading from left to right, it is orange, then the high one next to it is pink, the low one next to that is brown, the one next to that is grey, and the one next to that is blue. So left to right, it's orange, high pink, low brown, grey, blue. Remember that, don't get those mixed up, otherwise you'll be in all kinds of trouble, and you will get in a mess if you get those mixed up, and it's very easy to do. If you do want to take those out, you don't normally have to take them. Have to take the screws all the way out. I will just demonstrate with the brown one here. You normally can just loosen them slightly, and they should be on like a fork connector. That one is, you see there, that you can just pull off. So I've not taken the screw all the way out, just loosened it a bit, and then I'm going to put it back on now under the screw and just do it up again. They should be insulated well up towards the ends, and obviously make sure no metal bits from one are touching the metal bits on the next one, because they are very close. Right, in here you have now got various contacts. Now I don't know if you can see this here, but this dial is at the moment in what we call the normal position. That's the position that it's at when it's not rotating, you know, when it's at rest. We call that normal. And when it's anywhere else, when we put a finger in it and move it around, or when it's moving back, that's called off normal. Okay, so just so you understand that, so you know what I'm talking about. So it's at normal position at the minute, and what you will find here is there are contacts that move, and they move because there's a pin on here, a little white plastic pin cast into this plastic wheel here. Now, what happens is when the dial is off normal, that pin moves away from this shaped contact here. So that contact opens there. That is not actually a contact in there. What looks like a contact in there now, where my screwdriver is, if you can see that, between the end of this shaped thing and the next one, that's not actually a contact, that's just a stop, that's just a rest with a little rubber foot on the end. The contacts are down here with little black blobs on, and there's two of them. And when the dial is at normal position, this contact here, as you look at it this way up, the left one of the two, when it's at normal position, that contact is pushed open, and this other contact here, if you can see that there, that one is also pushed open. So those two contacts there, one there, one there, when the dial is at normal position, they should be open. And the moment you go off normal and that pin moves away, it moves this arm, this contactor arm with the that's a funny shape. It moves that, and it allows both those contacts to close. So when it's anywhere other than normal, those contacts should be closed. So when it's at normal, what you can do is put a multimeter across those on continuity. You know, disconnect the dial, take all the wires off it, but put a multimeter between them and make sure that when they're closed, they really are closed and they really are making contact, and when they're open, they really are open and not making contact. So that's what they should be doing. So that's the first thing to check, make sure they are working. Now, on the other side of the dial here, we have what we call the pulse contacts, and they are what make the thing work when it dials. If I now move the thing off normal, you'll see a little plastic thing here will flip over. Can you see that? It's flipped over. And if I move it now, keep moving the dial round, if I let it go back, you'll see it flip back, and these contacts here that are under my finger, because my finger's in the way, these contacts here should pulse the number of times for whatever number you've dialed. So if you dialed a 9, they should pulse 9 times. If you dialed a 0, they should pulse 10 times. Okay, so I'll let it go and you'll see those pulse. Did you see that? Happens a bit fast. I'll try and do it slowly. I'll try and let it roll back slowly so you can see it happening. I know it's a bit hard to see on the camera, but see that's rolled back. And can you see how that plastic thing that flipped over is opening and closing that contact? Yeah, and that's what we call the pulse contact there. Now, the problem is, if you've got some phones that work and some phones that don't, they're probably going through some electronic equipment somewhere. that doesn't have the same tolerances for the pulse make-break ratio. So the amount of time those pulse contacts are closed relative to the amount of time those pulse contacts are open. There is a set value, the percentage of the time they should be closed to the percentage of the time they're open when the dial's going back. It's not 50-50. And there's a set value to that. Don't worry about what it is, you don't really need to know. There is a tolerance in the system, so you don't have to have that make-break ratio spot on. You can have it a little bit one way, a little bit more make than break, or a little bit more break than make. There is a tolerance in the system, and that's normally fine. Now, the American system, if you're using any American equipment, like you've got them connected up to an ATA because you're using VoIP, you've got an analog terminal adapter or something, American equipment, or if you are in America watching this and you're using British phones and you're finding they sometimes don't work, the problem is the American make-break ratio is slightly different to that in the UK. And what happens with the American make-break ratio in relation to that in the UK is that that also has a tolerance, but because their value, their ideal value, is slightly different to the UK's, if the UK phone is at one end of the tolerance, either way, it's not quite set up as it should be and it's right at the end of the tolerance. One way, it's outside of the tolerance limits for American equipment. Okay? So it might just work in the UK. It might not be ideal, it might just work, but it will then not work in America. If it's spot on for the UK, it will be still within tolerance for America, but won't be quite right. And American stuff is vice versa. If it's spot on, it will definitely work in the UK. If it's not exactly spot on, it might not work in the UK. So the problem that we have in the UK is the make-break, and the way that you solve it is with the pulse contacts. Now, if I can show you this again, if I turn this round again, and again you're looking at the contacts that you're seeing at the bottom here, this little pulse contact here. You see that plastic thing flip over, you see how it opens and closes those contacts. Right, you see the bit that moves. You don't adjust that, but what you do is you look how far that opens. And what you want to do to make it work on American equipment, or if it's a UK phone that doesn't work because you're on something like an ATA, or you are actually in America, if it doesn't work and you suspect it's because of some American spec equipment in the system somewhere, or some very modern equipment being used at your local exchange that might not have as much tolerance as the old equipment did, what you do is you get that to a place where those contacts are open. Okay, so wind round and then let it go back slowly until you get to a place where the contacts are open, and you'll see them pulse, and you see it's open there. Look at the contacts, and what you want to do is the thicker piece, the bit that doesn't move, bend it very slightly, and I mean very, very, very slightly, so the contacts are still open but the gap is less. Okay, so if you look in there and you'll see a gap which will be probably about 0.5 millimeter. It's tiny, but what you want to do is make it, if your phone doesn't work, if it does not work, make it so that gap is less. It'll be a very tiny gap anyway, but make it less, and then that will alter the make-break tolerance. It will basically mean that the make, when the contacts are together, will be slightly more, because it won't be pushing the arm that moves away for as long. So that arm that moves, instead of it moving that far, it'll only be moving that far. So when it gets there, it will have opened. No, so when it gets there, it won't have opened. It won't open till it gets to there, because you're moving the other part that's against it. So if I can explain it by showing you in my hands, which way can I do it that's easy to see on the camera? If at the moment you've got a gap between them like that, and one is pushing down onto the other like that, you see it takes a while for that hand to get there. But if you move this one up, your hand gets there sooner and it makes sooner, so the actual make time is longer than if that steady one, that thick contact, was down there. So that's what you have to do. You have to adjust that thick one. You have to get it into a position, as I say, where those contacts are open like that, and you'll see them open, and you have to bend the thick contact, the one that doesn't move, the thick half of the contacts, bend that so it is closer to the one that moves when the one that moves in the open position, but not so close obviously that it's touching, until you drop into the closed position again like that. And that basically, it's a bit like changing the spark plug gap on a car. If you ever change the plug gap, or if you change the point, if you've got a car with points, if you remember when cars had points, when you used to have to change the point gap, it's a bit like that. You want to make the gap less, and then it should, and I repeat should, then work on both the UK and American system. So that is how you do it. The other thing about dials that's sometimes a bit off is the return speed. And the way you check the return speed is you put your finger in the 0, now around to the finger stop, and as you let go, say 1101 to yourself, and as you finish speaking, that's when the dial should stop turning. So 1101, and you see that one is pretty much spot on. 1101, and you need to say it fairly fast. 1101. Generally, if you can't get them quite right, try and get them a bit fast rather than a bit slow, and they will have more chance of working a little bit faster than they do a bit slow. Most dials that you will come across, if you buy a phone that's not been restored, you know, from a car boot sale or whatever, most dials that you come across will be slow. And the way that you alter the speed of the dial if they're slow is in the back of the thing here. You'll see a little governor here with two little weights on the end. It's got like 2 wings and 2 weights on the end, and that rotates when the dial's going back. You see that? And if the dial is too slow, bend the little wings of that governor in with a little screwdriver or something, so the weights on the end are nearer to the centre rod. Again, just very slightly, just sort of a fraction of a millimetre, but bend them in just a little bit, and the dial will then return faster. Equally, if the dial's too fast, bend it so the little rods are further away from the centre rod. But that's how you alter the speed, and also lubricate that as well. Put a little bit of light oil on that governor, on the little bearings in the ends. A little bit of something like sewing machine oil or something like that, or a little bit of 3-in-1 oil will do if you can get 3-in-1 oil. Do not use WD-40, because WD-40 is a great lubricant and that. The problem is it dries out and it attracts dust. So what happens if you spray it with WD-40, it's wet, it attracts dust, it then dries out and it goes like concrete, the dust in the thing, and then it absolutely ruins it. So do not use WD-40, use that sewing machine oil. Oil that they use for model railways is great as well. Just a light oil, and the one you can get easily is 3-in-1 oil, or if you're in the UK and there's the Wilcos around, the little cans with the little nozzle on the top, similar to 3-in-1 oil cans, but the Wilco's own brand, so they're a lot cheaper. That's fine too. I use that all the time. Right, so to put this back together, this dial, just so you know, when you put this back together, you'll find a hole in this little dust cover here. The hole has got to line up with that hole there in the back of the dial. This is a dial 21, by the way, but it's very similar on a dial 12 or on others. So those holes have got to line up, and then you've got this thing as well, this metal piece that's got to go on, and there's a little cutout here. Can you see this cutout? That is got to line up with those holes as well. Okay, so it all lines up there like that, because it's all got to line up, because you've got to put that little screw back in. Okay, that one there. So put that in, and that screw is shaped on the end. It's got no thread on the end of it, so it should sort of find its own place quite easily, and that then should all fit nicely back together. And then remember, those little tabs on the bottom are there, engage with those 2 slots in there. And as I said before, this particular one that I've got here is not entirely right, because it's got a little bit missing. It's got this little hook thing on the top here missing, but yours should have that hook, and you'll see where it goes. Then you tighten that little screw up there onto the hook, and that will hold the dial in place. The other screw under here, the longer one, that metal ring that you've put on, if that's a bit loose, you can do that up a bit, and that just tightens up that metal ring that you've just put back on. So that is basically how it goes back together. Now when you come to put the case back on, remember there's a little lug under the front of the case. If it was a 706 that you're doing rather than 746, there's 2 lugs under there. That has to go under the front first of all. Make sure the dial surrounds in the right place, so there's a little cutout where the finger stop goes, and then that should just go back down. Often they don't, and this is why you sometimes have to take the finger wheel off. But I can probably cheat with this one because it's not attached quite the way it should be. And no, you know, I still can't do it. This is what a bad design these cases actually are. The thing still won't go on, even though it's not properly attached, and it should fit, but they just don't. They're just such a poor design. But you get the idea. It should fit on there. I'm not going to force it on while I'm on air. But remember to put, when you get it back on, remember to put that little screw back in the back of the thing, because that screw, you don't want to lose it. In fact, let me have another go, see if I can actually do this, because it's bugging me now. Right. one of the problems is I'm trying to do it backwards for your benefit as well, I'm afraid. There. I've had a bit of a breakthrough, I think. There. That's as good as it gets at the minute, because as I say, the dial is not correctly in place. But put that little screw back on. Remember that spring, because this screw is only threaded part way down. And if you don't have that spring on there, what happens is this screw will go on past the thread and you will never be able to get it out again. So make sure that thread is on there, that spring rather is on there, and don't screw this in too far. You don't need to tighten it up hardly at all, really. Just when you start feeling resistance, stop. And so that is basically what you do with a 746 to sort the dial out. I hope that's helped one or two people out who have asked over time about dials and that. Like I say, someone contacted me this last week about them, and I just thought, I tried to explain it to him, but I thought I'd do it on the show, and then everybody's seen it and what the problem is. But it's those make-break contacts. You basically have to make them closer together when they're in the break position, but obviously not touching, but closer than they were. And that should bring it in line so it will work if you're in America, or if you're using American spec equipment like a Grandstream ATA, which I use here to get onto CNET and things like that. So that should help. Right, before we go, because it's almost the end of another show, just time to tell you about a new project. It's not all phones. Remember, it's called ANDYS Shed this for a reason. It's because we tinker about with all kinds of strange things. It's not all telephones. I've been to a model railway exhibition in Sheffield today at Birkdale School and got this. This is a rather nice American outline model. It's made by a company called ANDYS, and it's actually made in Austria. I don't know if you can see underneath this. If I put it up to the, if I put this up to the camera and try and focus it in, there you go. Look, ANDYS. I don't know if you can read it. Made in Austria, and it's rather a nice model, I find. You know, it's quite a nice thing. It's fitted with KD couplers. Anybody that knows model railways will probably know about KD couplers and will either love them or loathe them. But I'm trying to use them because you know, it's quite handy to have them, because you can do like automatic uncoupling with them. But it's quite a nice model. This was £20 20 quid from the exhibition today. I think I did quite well with that, because I am at the minute building a fairly big for a 16-foot long model railway that is American outline. So so this loco will go on it eventually. So if you're into model railways, there is another YouTube channel that you should go and have a look at as well. It's called Budget Model Railways. Go and see the guys. It's a chap and his son. Go to Budget Model Railways, check them out. They are brilliant at doing model railways, fun model railways on a budget. Go and check out their videos and tell them I sent you. Tell them it's Andy from ANDYS Shed sent you, and they'll go, oh God, not him again. No, they're not really. But yeah, tell them that I sent you, and I'm sure you'll have hours of endless fun watching their stuff, and we'll be doing more about the railway stuff in a future episode of ANDYS Shed Live. Right, that about wraps it up for this week. Thanks very much for watching. Just time to remind you once again about the website, andysshed.colepress.net. Get on there if you want to contact us with the contact form. You can of course leave comments in the comment section below here if you want, but if you want to send us pictures or anything, you've got no way of doing that until I send you an email address. So if you contact us by the contact form on there, it will come straight to me, because what happens is it beeps on my phone that I've got a message through the website, and then I can send you an email back, provided you've left your email address, obviously, and then you will have an email address. But if I put the email address on the website, we get all kinds of spam and things, and that's why we don't do it. So it's andyshed.coldpress.net, and once again, if you do fancy sort of sponsoring us for just £1 a month, no, a US dollar a month I think it is, because Patreon's a US site. It's patreon.com/ANDYS. We've just relaunched this Patreon thing and just set it up again, but if you do fancy doing that, just $1 a month, and for as long as you are a patron, and you can be a patron for as long or as short time as you want to, and you don't have to send us $1 if you don't want to. You can send us more. You can make a one-off payment to us if you want. You know, you can send us a couple of pounds just once if you want, or something like that. But as long as you're a patron, if you send us at least $1, for as long as you're a patron, we will put your name and the credits at the end of any video that we make during that time. Right, that really is it. I hope you have a fantastic week this week. We will be back next week with more, possibly more from the model railways, certainly more from the telephones. I've also got to go and collect a woodworking lathe from Leicester this week, so you might be finding out a little bit about how that's gone next week as well. But until next time, thanks for watching. Remember, if you've not done so already, please give us a like and a subscribe. I know YouTubers always say hit subscribe and hit the bell icon so you get notifications when we next put a video up. But if you don't want to be pestered with notifications, because if you're subscribing to loads of YouTubers, you might not want to be pestered with a notification every time everybody uploads a video. So if you don't want to be pestered, just don't hit the bell icon. But please do hit subscribe, because as I say, YouTube took off our advertisers away a year ago. They brought in a new rule that said you have to have 1,000 subscribers to be able to run adverts on what they call the pre-roll before the shows. You have to have 1,000 subscribers, and we've only got just under 500 at the moment, and that's grown immensely over the last year. So thanks to everybody who has subscribed. It's grown from 200 and something, I think, about this time last year, but it's grown over the year. But we do need to basically double it again before we can start running pre-roll ads again. And when we can run pre-roll ads, we make a little bit of money, and the little bit of money we make off it enables us to do more, and do more episodes and be on more weeks of the year and stuff like that. So please, please, please do subscribe. That's why all YouTubers say please, please, please subscribe. I know you get fed up of them saying it, because I know I get fed up of them saying it, but please do subscribe. If you do want the notifications, hit the bell icon. If you don't want notifications, don't hit the bell icon. It's as simple as that. But please subscribe to us. Everybody who subscribes to us, we will subscribe back. So all you small YouTubers who are trying to get to that 1,000 subscribers like we are, subscribe to us, and we do periodically, it might take a week or two, we do periodically go through them all and subscribe back to everybody who subscribed to us. So yeah, hit that subscribe button, and remember, comment below, get on the website andyshed.coldpress.net and leave a comment on there. There's also much more content on there as well, and you can also see the previous episodes on andyshed.coldpress.net too. But until next week, thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.